Hey everyone! So there are very few numbers out there that are as famous, as misunderstood, and as debated as this one. For centuries, it's been the stuff of prophecy, conspiracy theories, and a whole lot of fear. But what if it isn't some mystery waiting in the future? What if it's an ancient code we were always meant to understand? Well, today, we're gonna crack it.
603 score and six. Just seeing it has a certain power, doesn't it? Now, theories have swirled for ages. Some people point to historical codes for figures like the Roman Emperor Nero, and that's a fascinating subject. But to get to the symbolic meaning that's presented in the text itself, we have to go back to the original source, to the original language, and see what it's actually asking us to do.
All right, so here's our roadmap. First, we'll look at the verse itself. Then we're going to decode its key words. From there, we'll unpack what the number of a man really symbolizes. We'll explore the internal conflict it represents, and then contrast the infamous mark with its powerful alternative, the seal. And it all leads to a final, pretty urgent question for all of us today. So let's just try to put aside everything we think we know for a minute and go straight to the source. This whole puzzle is laid out in the final book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. And you know what? It comes with a very specific instruction. Now listen closely to the language here. This isn't just some big declaration. It's a challenge. It says, "Here is wisdom," and then it invites anyone with understanding to count the number. The text isn't asking us to passively look for a number somewhere. It's giving us a command to calculate, to figure out a deeper meaning. Okay, so let's really dive into this because the key to this entire puzzle is locked up in just a few words from the original Greek text. And once you understand them, it changes everything. Now, what's really fascinating is how these words you see here work together. The verse calls for Sophia, that's a kind of spiritual wisdom or insight, and noun, which is the mind, your intellect, to perform a very specific action. And that action is sipsiseto. It's a direct command to calculate or compute something about anthropou, which means of a man or a human. So it's a puzzle for our mind, but one that has to be guided by wisdom. This one word right here, psihisteto, is an absolute game changer. It's only used twice in the New Testament. The other time, it's when Jesus tells his followers to calculate the cost before they build a tower. It's all about discernment, about reckoning. So the verse isn't just throwing a number at us, it's telling us to calculate the meaning behind a number that represents humanity itself. So if we're supposed to calculate the meaning of the number of a man, what exactly are we calculating, right? What aspect of humanity does 666 really stand for? Well, the texts we're looking at point to a fascinating and actually very specific answer. According to this interpretation, this is the answer. The number of a man symbolizes our human nature when it's operating on its own, apart from God. It's that part of us that relies on our own resources, our own strength, our own pride, what this verse right here calls the boastful pride of life. So let's talk symbolism for a second. In the Bible, numbers often carry a lot of weight. Numbers like 3 or 7 are constantly associated with divine perfection and completion, but the number 6, it's tied to humanity. Man was created on the 6th day, and it always falls just short of that perfect number 7. So by repeating it 3 times, 666, it symbolizes the ultimate human effort to be godlike through our own power. It's like a counterfeit trinity of self-reliance that always falls short. And believe it or not, this isn't even a new idea. There's this amazing parallel way back in the Old Testament. At the absolute peak of King Solomon's power and wealth, the precise amount of gold he received every year was 666 talents. And that moment, it marked the high point of his worldly success, right before his heart was led away from God by pride and excess. So this number has been tied to this theme for a long time. So this idea actually goes even deeper than just human nature in general. It represents a really fundamental conflict that happens inside the human mind itself, a battle between our natural way of thinking and a spiritual way of understanding the world. Just think about the story of the golden calf for a second. The Israelites had just seen incredible miracles. The plagues, the parting of the Red Sea. God's power was undeniable. And yet, the second Moses was gone, their natural minds defaulted to what they could see and control. They built a system, an idol. They chose their own creation over faith in the unseen God. This is a perfect illustration of how that 666 mind operates. And here's the contrast it all boils down to. You've got the 6-6 mind, which is our natural, unrenewed intellect. The text describes it as veiled, operating in doubt, and relying on what it can build and control. And then you have the renewed mind, which is transformed to operate in faith, in trust, and in discernment of spiritual truth. And right here is the solution that's presented. The way to overcome this 666 nature isn't about fighting some external enemy, but it's about an internal transformation, the renewing of your mind, shifting from a place of self-reliance to a place of God-reliance. So, this brings us to the famous mark of the beast. And according to this interpretation, we are not talking about a future computer chip or a barcode. We're talking about a profound spiritual choice of identity, and it's one that every single one of us faces right now. So in this view, the mark is a spiritual state of being. It's adopting an identity that's defined by the world's systems, its economy, its values, its power structures. It's a fundamental allegiance to human ingenuity and a deep-seated lack of trust in God's provision. It's the full, complete expression of that 666 mindset. But here's the powerful twist. According to the text, the alternative isn't just having no mark at all. It's about having a different one. It's about being identified not by the world system, but by what the Bible calls the seal of God. This really gets to the heart of it. These are the two paths. The mark of the beast represents an identity that's built on what you do, what you own, and what you can control. The seal of God represents an identity that is given to you. Your identity is in being a child of God, sealed by His Spirit. One is an allegiance to self, the other is an allegiance to Christ. So, we've taken quite a journey here, haven't we? From a mysterious number to its original Greek meaning, to a symbol for the human mind, and now to a choice of identity. So let's bring this ancient code right into our modern lives. Do you remember the story when the Israelites demanded a king? They had God Himself leading them, but they wanted a system they could see, a human ruler just like all the other nations had. And if we're honest, we do the exact same thing. We often prefer the tangible comfort of our own systems, our bank accounts, our career plans, our technology, over the vulnerability of just simple trust in God. And that is the final, urgent question that this ancient code asks every one of us today. It's not about watching for some future villain or a microchip. It's about looking inward. In a world that offers us endless ways to secure our own comfort and our own control, the question of 666 becomes deeply personal. In what or in whom do you truly place your trust?